Let me get something out of the way right up front. I'm not a guy people write love songs about. I'm not rugged or mysterious or brooding in a leather jacket leaning against a Dodge Charger. I'm more the type of guy you call when your Wi-Fi router stops blinking or when your grandma's laptop keeps opening pop-ups for investment opportunities in Uzbekistan. I fix things. That's what I do. Broken ports, busted screens, fried motherboards. I'm the guy you never think about until your world goes black and won't boot. But you can't fix everything. Especially not when it's pretending to love you. I met Nina at a dinner party I didn't even want to go to. My friend Rob had dragged me out, said I was starting to rot from the inside out. Which okay, fair? At the time, my idea of a good night was microwave taquitos and a YouTube rabbit hole about vintage ThinkPads. Rob worked at this architecture firm in Hoboken, and one of his co-workers was dating this Brazilian girl named Marcela. That night, Marcela brought a friend, Nina. Nina looked like she'd stepped out of a catalog where women laugh at salads in sundresses. Tall, glowing skin, honey brown eyes, this way of smiling with just one corner of her mouth like she knew a joke you'd never get. I tried not to stare. Failed, obviously. She asked what I did. I mumbled something about tech repair and support services. She laughed. So, like Geek Squad? Independent contractor, I corrected, slightly mortified. Then I added, but yeah, kinda. She said she loved how I talked about computers like they had personalities. That should have been my first clue. Nobody finds that charming. But when you've spent most of your life being invisible to women like her, you don't question the glitch. You just go with it. Over the next few months, we got close. Slowly, like steam fogging a mirror. She'd come by my shop with busted devices she accidentally dropped. She claimed to hate texting but sent me good morning messages like clockwork. She'd ask about the weirdest things, why I preferred Linux to Windows, why I never put up pictures in my apartment, what kind of music I listened to when I soldered circuits. It felt intimate, personal. She never let me pay for dinner, said it made her feel uncomfortable, like she owed me. She'd slip $20 bills into my glove box or leave little gifts in my fridge. A Brazilian soda called guarana. Homemade cheese bread. Once, a thumb drive full of her favorite music labeled Nina's Soul. I thought I was falling in love. In reality, I was walking into a spider web and calling it silk. She told me she'd been on a student visa for design school, but things got complicated. Her school lost its accreditation. She was scrambling. They said I have to leave the country unless I can find other options, she told me one night, her head resting on my chest while we watched an old Star Trek episode. That's when I made the offer. I thought I was saving her. Thought it made me noble, generous. Nina cried when I proposed, real tears. Or maybe I just wanted them to be. We got married in a courthouse in Hackensack under fluorescent lights and the steady click of a bored clerk's keyboard. No vows, no rings. Just a signature and a handshake from a man who'd seen it all. That handshake should have come with a warning. You just legally tethered yourself to a ghost. They say some betrayals are slow, like a leak in the ceiling you don't notice until the drywall caves in. That was our marriage. Silent rot behind a fresh coat of paint. At first, things were fine. Not fairy tale fine, but functional. She moved in officially, though half her stuff had already been accidentally left in my apartment weeks earlier. She said it felt good to belong somewhere, and I actually believed her. We watched Netflix on my old ThinkPad, shared takeout on the couch, and slept in a bed that suddenly felt warmer than I remembered. She'd hum Brazilian lullabies in the kitchen, sometimes dancing barefoot in my oversized t-shirt, and I'd think, wow, maybe this is it. Maybe I got lucky for once. But it didn't last. The warmth faded faster than a $20 space heater. It started with the little things. She'd take phone calls in the other room and close the door behind her. She stopped cooking. Stopped cuddling. Her smiles became transactional, like customer service expressions, just enough to seem polite but hollow underneath. She used to send me playlists with songs like Just the Two of Us. Suddenly, she was playing EDM until 2 a.m. with headphones on, ignoring me completely. She started going out more, always dressed up, always vague about where. Just with Marcela, she'd say. You wouldn't like it, loud music, club stuff. She was right, I wouldn't. But what stung was that she didn't want me there at all. Then came the money problems. I noticed the credit card was climbing higher than usual, nails, hair, boutique clothes, all for someone who kept saying she was between opportunities. She promised she'd pay me back once she landed something steady. Interior design is competitive, she said. They want me to intern for free first. Can you cover just a bit longer? Yeah, I covered. Like an idiot. I should have paid attention to the timeline. USCIS interviews, document submissions, follow-ups. Nina was meticulous about those. That was the only time she seemed genuinely focused: folders, calendars, deadlines. I chalked it up to nerves. This stuff is scary, she'd say. What if they don't believe we're real? She made me practice with her. What's my favorite food? When's our anniversary? Where did we meet? It was like prepping for a play. I should have realized I wasn't her husband. I was her co-star. She passed the green card interview with flying colors. The officer was friendly, almost too friendly. Nina played the doting wife flawlessly, reaching for my hand like it was muscle memory. We even chuckled about our first vacation to Atlantic City, which was really just us getting drunk on the boardwalk and eating $8 funnel cake. As soon as we got back in the car, she let go of my hand like it was made of plastic. I told myself she was stressed, that things would go back to normal. I clung to that idea for 3 weeks. And then one morning I woke up alone. Her side of the bed was cold. Too cold. No perfume. No rumpled sheets. No trace. At first, I thought she went to the store. Then I saw the closet. Half empty. The guarana cans gone. The thumb drive? Missing. Like she knew what would hurt to find missing. On the kitchen table, folded neatly like a resignation letter, was a note typed in 12-point Times New Roman. I'm sorry. This isn't working. I filed for separation. Please respect my decision. No signature. No goodbye. Just silence. And 2 credit cards now maxed out. She vanished. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The first 24 hours after she left felt like trying to reboot a machine that wouldn't post. Everything powered on, lights blinked, but nothing worked. I sat on the couch, fully dressed at 2 a.m. just waiting. For what, I couldn't tell you. A knock on the door? Just kidding? A fight? I would have welcomed a fight. At least it meant she still gave a damn. But there was nothing. No call. No text. Not even a blocked number prank. It was like she'd been abducted by aliens if the aliens stopped to clear out your credit cards and steal your wireless mouse first. I called her twice that day. Straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I wanted to, but I didn't know which version of myself would be talking, the heartbroken fool or the one starting to feel something colder. Then I logged into the Chase app. You know how your stomach drops on a roller coaster? Imagine that, but with the added joy of discovering a $4,700 tab at some designer boutique in Soho and another $1,200 at a downtown hotel. The same hotel we passed once, where she joked, maybe one day when we're rich. I guess she couldn't wait. She'd been planning this. It wasn't a snap decision. No one drains joint cards and ghostwrites breakup notes in Times New Roman without a little forethought. This wasn't a storm. It was a heist. I checked our shared Google Calendar, empty. Her Instagram? Deleted. Her Facebook? Wiped. She nuked her digital footprint like a criminal skipping town. But here's where she slipped. She forgot about the Wi-Fi. Specifically, she forgot I managed the router and still had admin access to our network dashboard. That's how I saw a device I didn't recognize ping the network the night before she left. A MacBook Pro that wasn't mine. Wasn't hers. Wasn't even Rob's. So I got curious. I ran a quick check using the IP history from the router logs. Traced the device to a location near Journal Square in Jersey City. Not exact, nothing CSI level, but close enough. A cluster of apartment buildings that mostly housed students, new arrivals, and the occasional Airbnb ghost listing. Then I remembered something else. Nina never turned off Find My iPhone. That app was buried in a folder she never used. But I used it once when she left her phone in an Uber. I opened the app, half expecting it to be disabled. But there it was. Nina's phone was still active. Guess where? Journal Square. I didn't go. I'm not that guy. I didn't drive over there and bang on doors like a jilted ex in a rom-com gone wrong. But something clicked in me right then, something quiet and mean. Not rage. Not sadness. Something focused. She hadn't just used me. She'd studied me. Knew I wouldn't scream, wouldn't chase. That I'd just fold into myself and disappear. But here's what she didn't know, I fix broken things for a living. And right now, the broken thing was me. I started digging. Not out of bitterness. Not even out of revenge. At least not yet. I just needed answers. Answers require tools. Lucky for me, I had every tool I'd need, and a whole lot of time. There's something wild that happens when humiliation curdles into obsession. It's like grief with a search bar. You don't just sit in your feelings, you research them. That's what I did. Every night, after work, I'd come home, make coffee I didn't need, and dive into the murky abyss of immigration law like it was my new religion. I wasn't just mad. I was methodical. I started with USCIS. I'd already known the basics from going through the process with Nina, the I-130 petition, the adjustment of status, the marriage interview where she rubbed my hand like we were some Hallmark couple. But now I was reading between the lines, paragraph by paragraph, clause by clause. And then I found it. 8 U.S. Code Section 1186A, Conditional Permanent Resident Status for certain alien spouses. There it was, right in black and white. If the marriage is determined to be fraudulent, even after the green card is issued, it can be revoked. The law doesn't care if she's in a better place emotionally. Cares if she lied under oath. And we both had signed under oath on everything. The petition, the joint affidavit, the photos, the financial disclosures. She didn't just dump me. She committed federal immigration fraud. So I started documenting, pulled bank statements, cataloged her purchases post-approval, like the boutique hotel stay 3 nights in a row just after the green card came in the mail. I printed texts, emails, screenshots of her deleted accounts from cached versions. Everything I could find that showed the shift from loving partner to vanishing act. Then I filed a Form I-751 waiver fraud report. Most people don't know this exists. It's the form someone submits when they're still married after 2 years to remove conditions on a green card. But in my case, I filed a report with the USCIS Fraud Detection and National Security Directorate. Yes, that's real. I expected it to vanish into a bureaucratic void. But 2 weeks later, I got a call. Not an agent. A woman from USCIS who said her name was Linda, and her voice had the calm patience of someone who'd been screamed at 1,000 times. She asked if I was safe, if this was a consensual report, and if I had evidence I could submit. I said yes, to all of it. She gave me a case number and told me this wasn't the first time she'd seen a situation like mine. You'd be surprised, she said. There's a whole market for this. Online forums, brokered deals. Some of these women, they're coached. Coached? I asked. To look for men like you, men like me, not rich, not flashy, not connected, just lonely enough to say yes. Linda told me there'd be an investigation, that if Nina applied to remove conditions on her residency without me, they'd flag it. If she tried to marry again, flagged. If she filed anything inconsistent with our documents, flagged. I hung up and stared at my laptop for a long time. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from purpose. It was the first time since she left that I felt like I was doing something. But the best part? She had no idea. As far as she knew, I was still balled up on my couch eating frozen pierogies and crying into a hoodie. She forgot the quiet ones are the ones who pay attention. And I wasn't done. Not even close. So there I was, armed with a fraud report filed to us as a digital folder labeled ex-wife evidence, and a sudden, burning need to not feel like the punchline of my own life. But here's the thing they don't tell you after you've been used like a stepping stone. Silence gets heavy, and I'd been holding mine too long, so I opened my mouth. Well, my laptop, technically, and my webcam, and my heart, kind of. See, I've always been decent on camera. Not charismatic, exactly, but I've got this weird knack for explaining complicated tech to people like they're 5 years old. It started when I fixed my uncle's MacBook and made a tutorial for him on how not to download viruses labeled free iTunes. So I had this dusty YouTube channel, Fixed by DeLuca. I'd posted maybe a dozen videos over the years. Got a couple hundred views here and there, but nothing serious. Until now. That night, I set up my tripod, cleared off my cluttered workbench, and hit record. The video wasn't about her. Not by name. Not directly. It was called How to fix a laptop and yourself after being used for a green card. 5 minutes of tech talk. 15 minutes of story. I made it raw, honest, painful, and just a little bit funny. I talked about marrying someone who never intended to stay, about finding empty drawers and maxed out cards and ghost trails on your own Wi-Fi. I didn't name her, but I didn't have to. I told people exactly what had happened and what I was doing about it. I uploaded the video at 3:12 a.m., shut my laptop, and assumed it'd die like the rest. I had 26 subscribers, most of whom were probably bots, and 2 guys named Terry. By the time I woke up, 30,000 views, 200 comments, 6 direct messages. One said, "My cousin went through the same thing. Filed a report, never heard back. You gave him hope." Another, "Bro, she tried to pull the same thing on me. Brazilian, design student. Soho boutique phase? We might have been played by the same girl." My gut sank and my spine straightened. It wasn't just me. There were dozens of guys out there who'd been fed the same lines, wrapped in the same warmth, and tossed like crumpled receipts once the papers cleared. So I made another video. This one wasn't about a repair. It was a series I called Cautionary Tales for the Technically Inclined. First episode, When Your Love Story Requires AW2. I didn't attack her. I exposed the pattern. How scammers use small talk like scaffolding to build their escape route. How they pick men who say yes more easily than they say no. And how you can spot it, stop it, and recover from it. By the end of the week, I had 60,000 subscribers. By the end of the month, over 200,000. And tucked in my inbox, among the DMs and the fix my screen requests, was a short message that made my blood freeze and boil at the same time. It said, "Tell me you didn't really do this." No name. But I knew that voice. Nina had found the channel. And now the game had changed. The message came in just after midnight. No subject line. No signature. Just, "Tell me you didn't really do this." That's it. I stared at it for 10 minutes, rereading it like it might transform into something else. Something softer. Something human. It didn't. I knew it was her. The tone gave it away. Not angry, not apologetic. Panicked. She was nervous. Good. I didn't respond. 2 days later, a new message came in. This one was longer. Still no name, but now it had a little flair. "You don't understand what you're doing. This is borderline defamation. I have rights too." There it was, the legal bluff. Classic narcissistic damage control, flip the spotlight, act like the victim. I didn't bite. Didn't even blink. Instead, I did something deliberate. I uploaded a new video. The title? The Anatomy of a Green Card Scam, Part 1, The Nice Guy Trap. It was polite. Clinical, even. I wore a button-down shirt. I sipped coffee. I didn't raise my voice. But I did tell the story again in clearer detail, this time using fabricated names, professionally edited graphics, and one beautiful innovation, searchable metadata. Let me explain. YouTube lets you add tags to every video, hidden keywords, phrases, and search strings that help categorize your content. Most people use things like laptop repair or tech tips. I added those. But I also added something else. Something just for her. Her full legal name. Not spoken. Not visible. But embedded quietly in the digital DNA of the upload. So anytime someone Googled her, whether it was a landlord, a future employer, or her next sucker date, guess what popped up? My face. Telling the truth. Calmly. Thoroughly. Publicly. Now, to be clear, I didn't accuse her of a crime directly. I never said Nina Redacted is a fraud. I said, let's talk about how certain types of relationships can be used by people seeking immigration benefits, and then described a completely fictional woman who just happened to share some eerily specific traits with my ex. I even included a helpful checklist. Moved in quickly? Has unclear immigration status? Always just a little too concerned with dates and paperwork? Sudden disinterest after green card approval? Congratulations. You might be a character in my next upload. Within a week, 2 things happened. I received a message from a woman claiming to be Nina's former roommate in design school. Said she watched the video, recognized the story, and added she bragged about it. Said she could get any guy to sign the papers. You're not the first. A burner Gmail account sent me this. I could lose everything. Please take the videos down. We were happy once, weren't we? That one hit different. Because no, we weren't. Not really. I wanted us to be. I fought for us to be. But you can't build a home on a fake lease and then act surprised when the roof caves in. I didn't reply, but I did pin a comment on the video. The most dangerous con isn't the one that empties your wallet. It's the one that makes you feel like the fool for trusting in the first place. And just like that, her digital reputation began to fray. People talk. Employers Google. Immigration officials check timelines. And her name was now a keyword. My story didn't just live online. It started following her. Like a shadow she couldn't delete. By the time my 7th video dropped, How Scammers Gaslight You Into Blaming Yourself, I had 3 sponsors, 1 stalker, and the first official letter from the US government that didn't make me want to throw up. It came in a bland white envelope from the Department of Homeland Security marked confidential. I opened it slowly like it might explode in my hands. But inside was something I hadn't felt in months: vindication. The letter confirmed that Nina's permanent residence status had been flagged for review. A formal investigation was now underway. They thanked me for submitting detailed documentation. Said her file had been moved to a special division that handled marriage-based fraud cases. They couldn't tell me more, of course. Privacy laws. Due process. Blah, blah, blah. But there was a sentence near the end that I read 3 times. Your testimony and evidence have contributed meaningfully to an ongoing federal case. Please retain copies for future reference. That's government speak for, you hit a nerve. And we're watching her now. I sat there at my kitchen table holding that letter like a relic. This was real. I wasn't just yelling into the void anymore. The void had an inbox. But karma wasn't done yet. 2 days later, I got a message on LinkedIn from a guy named Lucas. His profile picture showed him with a dog and a guitar, so I almost didn't take him seriously. But then I read his message. Hey man, I think we need to talk. I dated Nina while she was married to you. I had no idea until last week. She told me you were an abusive ex. But she slipped up recently and I started looking into things. Found your channel. I'm horrified. My jaw tightened. Abusive ex? She wasn't just rewriting the story, she was selling tickets. Lucas and I ended up having a long phone call that night. He was a bartender turned real estate agent who'd met her at a gallery opening in Williamsburg. She told him she was freshly divorced from a controlling, obsessive IT guy. She claimed I wouldn't let her go to school or work or even leave the house alone. Painted me like some kind of discount Joe Goldberg. She even said I'd stalked her after the breakup. The same breakup she orchestrated with a Word doc and 2 maxed-out credit cards. Lucas told me she cried when she talked about me. Said I'd damaged her sense of self. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Not a big laugh. Just one of those dry, tired ones that slips out when you're too exhausted to be mad anymore. She deserves an Oscar, I said. Lucas agreed. Then added, she's applying for jobs in design firms. She's got interviews lined up. Should I warn them? I paused. I didn't want to be that guy. The bitter ex. The one who shows up screaming she's a liar at her workplace with a bullhorn. But then I thought about it differently. This wasn't about us anymore. This was about pattern recognition. Nina wasn't just a heartbreaker, she was a serial manipulator. She had a playbook. And if I didn't raise the flag, some other guy or some small business was going to fall for it. So I didn't tell Lucas what to do. I just sent him the link to my most recent video. It was titled, Some Lessons Have to Cost You Something. But maybe they don't have to cost the next guy too. That video crossed 500,000 views in 5 days. And somewhere in Jersey City, Nina was sitting in someone else's apartment holding a phone she could no longer scroll safely. Because now, wherever she went, her reputation got there first. You ever have that moment where you realize you've become a cautionary tale, but not in the pity-me way? I don't mean sitting on a bar stool, slurring through a sob story about how she broke my heart and stole my air fryer. I mean the kind of tale people share to prevent it from happening again. That's what the channel had become now. I wasn't just a guy who got played, I was the guy who documented it, who turned heartbreak into high-definition tutorials. And I made sure those tutorials stuck. Because here's the thing, truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be searchable. After Lucas reached out and after I confirmed Nina was actively applying to new design jobs, I added another layer to the plan. I bought the domain, her name, designs.com. Cost me $12 and a smirk. Now, before you clutch your pearls, no, I didn't post anything defamatory. I posted a portfolio. A fake one. It featured images of her work, stock photos, a short professional biography that she absolutely didn't write, and a clean, modern layout. And right at the bottom, in tasteful gray font. Interested in learning more about working with Nina? Please visit these independent sources that highlight her story and public statements. The links? All directed to my channel. Some might say that's petty. Maybe, but I never lied. I just redirected the narrative. She built a facade. I installed a mirror. It didn't take long. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Rob. Remember him? The mutual friend who introduced us? Dude, he said, voice cautious. I ran into Marcella. She said Nina's freaking out. Says someone's ruining her professional chances. She can't get a call back from anywhere. I didn't say anything. Just waited. She says you've got videos about her. That you made a website with her name. She tell you about the credit cards? I asked. About the fake stories she told her boyfriend while she was still legally married to me? Or the green card investigation? Silence. Thought so. He sighed. Look, I'm not taking sides, but just maybe ease off a bit. I let that hang in the air. Then I asked him a question that surprised even me. Would you be this calm if it was your sister? If some guy used her, stole from her, and made her think it was her fault for being trusting? He didn't answer. Instead, he muttered, yeah, okay, and hung up. That night, I got a text from Nina. You made your point. Please stop. There it was again. Not sorry, not what I did was wrong. Just please stop. Like I was the one hurting her. I stared at the message, phone glowing in my hand like a tiny courtroom. She wanted me to go back to being the quiet guy. The guy who shrugs and moves on. The guy who lets people say, he's too nice for his own good. But that guy didn't exist anymore. He got left behind with the empty drawers and the overdraft fees. I didn't reply. I just uploaded another video. It was different this time. Slower. More reflective. No sarcasm. No dramatics. Title: How to Rebuild When You've Been Torn Down by Someone You Loved. I told them the truth. That it still hurt sometimes. That some nights I caught myself wondering if any of it had been real. That revenge didn't fix everything. But it sure as hell stopped me from staying broken. And that sometimes the best thing you can do isn't scream. It's document. Because silence is what abusers rely on. And I was done being quiet. You know how villains always try that final speech in movies? The one where they say, you're no better than me, or I did this for us. Right before the hero leaves them to be eaten by metaphor? Yeah. Nina tried her version of that too. It started with an email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line: I miss who we were. The body was longer than any message she'd ever sent me while we were married. Mark, I've been watching the videos. I know I hurt you. I know what I did was selfish. But things weren't as simple as they seemed. I wasn't trying to use you. I was scared. Panicked. You were kind and stable, and yes, I leaned on that. But you making all this public. You're ruining my life. I can't get work. People whisper about me in interviews. You've destroyed any chance I had to start over. Please, let me move on. Haven't we both suffered enough? I stared at the screen. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. That was the scariest part. I felt nothing. Maybe a pinch of sadness. Not for her. For me. For the version of myself who would have read that 6 months ago and folded. The guy who thought compassion always wins. That guy would have written back. Apologized for going too far. Maybe taken down a few videos. That guy would have called it closure. But I knew what this was, her last card. Guilt. She didn't reach out because she was sorry. She reached out because consequences finally found her forwarding address. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the email to Linda, the fraud investigator at USCIS. Told her this might be useful for the case. And speaking of that case, yeah, I finally got an update. Not officially, of course. Government bureaucracy moves slower than a dial-up modem in a thunderstorm. But I got a message on my business line from a guy named Agent Velasquez, asking if I'd be willing to testify should the investigation reach a hearing. A hearing, which meant they weren't just investigating, they had enough to take it somewhere. He said, "Your documentation has been incredibly helpful in establishing a pattern." That word again, pattern. Not a mistake. Not an emotional misunderstanding. A pattern of calculated, repeated deception. Apparently, Nina's name had popped up in 2 other flagged applications tied to her school, and a prior sponsorship she claimed was a clerical mix-up. Translation: she'd done this dance before. Maybe not the full wedding, but close enough to draw attention. I wasn't special. Just her longest con. Funny, right? I used to lie awake at night wondering if any of it had been real. Now I knew. It had been a performance. And like any actress, she'd played the role until the curtain call. Except this curtain didn't come with applause. Came with subpoenas. Back on my channel, I posted a short update. I didn't gloat. I didn't name her. I didn't say I won. I just said, accountability takes time. But if you're patient and prepared, truth has a way of showing up. Then I told people how to file a fraud report if they believed they were in the same situation. That video didn't go viral. It didn't need to. It just helped. And that, more than anything, felt like the kind of revenge she never expected. I used what she did to build something better than her. The final letter came on a Tuesday, the kind of gray day New Jersey specializes in. It arrived in a plain government envelope, return address marked USCIS Newark Field Office. Inside was a single page. Dry. Clinical. Borderline soulless. But to me, it might as well have been written in fireworks. We have concluded our investigation into the petition filed by Redacted. As a result of evidence submitted, conditional permanent residency has been revoked under Section 216 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Further proceedings are at the discretion of federal immigration authorities. That was it. No confetti. No judge's gavel. No dramatic takedown scene. But I didn't need spectacle. I needed truth, and I got it in black and white on U.S. letterhead. She'd lose her green card. Maybe face deportation. Maybe not. That wasn't up to me. What was up to me was what I did with what came after. And here's what I did. I kept fixing things. Not just laptops and busted HDMI ports, but men like me. The channel had gone from a side hustle to a platform. I started a little side series called The Cautionary Clinic. Guys wrote in about gold diggers, scammers, narcissists, and emotional manipulators dressed in soft smiles. I read their stories on camera. Some funny, some heartbreaking, some that still mess me up when the room gets too quiet. I didn't play therapist. I'm not one. But I offered perspective, and honesty, and proof that you could come out the other side not just breathing but building. I moved out of that apartment, couldn't sleep there anymore. Too many ghosts in the coffee mugs. I rented a small studio above a bakery in Montclair. The smell of fresh bread at 6 a.m. does something holy to a man rebuilding his life. Rob reached out again a while later. Said Marcella and Nina broke ties. Said Nina wasn't doing well, that she was couch hopping, trying to sort out her next move. I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't care. Because by then I was seeing someone new. Her name's Erin. She's smart. Has the kind of laugh that makes people across the room look up. Works with foster kids. First date, she told me, I don't want perfection. I want proof someone's evolved. I said, lady, I've evolved, and documented it. She laughed so hard she snorted. I liked her immediately. I told her the truth. The whole Nina story. Showed her the channel. Let her read the messages, the fallout, the heartbreak. She didn't flinch. You turned your worst moment into a warning label, she said. That's not revenge. That's redemption. And I guess she was right. Because revenge wasn't me screaming in a courtroom. It wasn't me torching her stuff or posting her name on a billboard. It was quiet. Surgical. Patient. It was the long, deliberate act of not letting what she did define me. She used me to stay in the country. I used what she did to stay true to myself. That's the real plot twist. Some people run scams. Others build search results. I built one she'll never outrun. And that, my friends, is how I fixed the one thing I never thought I could. Me.